Hey, welcome back. So today we are going to get our game mode area, our BP game mode set up so that we can start spawning our enemies into the game instead of just having this one enemy just kind of sitting there right off the bat attacking us. So let's go ahead and get started on that. But before we do, if this is your first time joining me, you can check out my videos on my YouTube's channel, which is Paul Fritz Animation. I also have some things on Maya and a few other things on Unreal Engine as well, a couple things on Unity. So anyway, go ahead and check that out. Subscribe if you want to keep up. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at where we left off. Okay, so basically what we did was we got our BP play area set up last time so that our character now is confined into our game area. Okay, so now if we run outside of it, our character will take 100% damage after 5 seconds in my game, whatever you set yours up for, and that'll kind of keep them constrained into our gameplay area. So this time, what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close that out. We don't need that now. Project settings, I'm going to close that. And let's go ahead and go back into our content and into our blueprints. And what we want is the game mode. So we created this at the very beginning so that we could get our character into our game. But what we want to do now is we want to go ahead and go in and edit and create some blueprints for it. And right here, when I open this up, you'll notice that because we haven't put anything in here before, it's pretty much got our settings in here. But what we want to do is we want to add some blueprints. So let's go ahead and open a full blueprint editor. And when we do that, that's going to give us basically the ability to put in blueprints just like we do with everything else. And we're going to go ahead and start here in our event graph. The event tick, we're not going to use that. We can delete that. But we are going to use the event begin play. All right? And the first thing we want to do is we want to give ourselves a little bit of a delay. Okay? So we're going to start here and we're going to put a delay in. And I've got mine set up so that it does 2 seconds. So I'm going to type in 2 in there. And now we've already hit the wall because what we need to do now is we need to start creating some new functions. So let's go ahead and do that. After the delay, what we want to do is over here on our functions, the first one we want to do is we're going to create a function that's called start new wave. Okay. So we've got a new function called start new wave. Okay, and start new wave is going to kind of be the thing that we're going to use to keep track of what wave we're in, and then it's going to apply some other things that we're going to do. So like a wave difficulty, we're going to add more enemies to the wave every time we start a new wave. So we're going to go ahead, and the first thing we want to do is we're going to pull off from here, and let's go ahead and hit plus plus. This is an increment integer. Okay, but what we need for this is a variable that we don't have yet. So let's go ahead and create a new variable, and this one is going to be called current wave. Okay. And it needs to be an integer because this is an integer, so we have to put an integer into it. So let's go ahead and hit the down arrow and find just a regular integer. Okay, we're going to convert that into an integer. We're going to pull this out, and we're going to get. And we're just going to leave this at 0. So we're going to go ahead and compile it, and we can save it, but not much is going to happen right now. And we're just going to leave this here at 0. We're not going to change anything in there. All right, so that started, but what we need to do now is we need to increase wave difficulty. So we need another function. And we're going to go ahead and type that down here, function, I'm going to plus this in here, and we're going to call this increase wave difficulty. I believe I typed that correctly. All right, so this one is increase wave difficulty. Now, we've got to add a couple more variables before we get much started here. And what we're going to do is we're going to first create one that is an integer down here. So we're going to hit the plus symbol. And since we used integer last time, that's what pops up. And this one is going to be called wave difficulty. Okay. And we can go ahead and pull that out. And we're going to say get. And then we also need another variable. And this wave is going, or this one is going to be called difficulty multiplier. All right, difficulty multiplier, and this one is actually going to be a float. Okay. We're going to pull that out here, and we're going to get that as well. And we're going to start these off, so we're going to go ahead and hit compile on these. This first one, the wave difficulty, is going to be 5, just a number kind of to start with, so it's not 0. And then the difficulty multiplier is going to be 1.5. So basically it's going to multiply the last wave difficulty times this wave difficulty, and it's going to increase from there. All right. So now what we want to do is we want to multiply these together. So I'm going to go ahead and right click here, hit the shift button and 8 key, and get my let's see here, integer times an integer. Let's see if it'll do this for me. And actually I do not want it to truncate it or convert it. Let's go ahead and delete that. Let's pull out of there. There we go. So we pull out of there. What we want is an integer times a float, okay? And by pulling out of one of those, you should see that pop up. And now we have that choice where we can multiply an integer times a float. And if we end up with a decimal or like a decimal number out of this, we don't want to count that. We want to be able to have it. Obviously we can't have like a half or a third of a character or a wave. So what we want to do, or even in the difficulty as well, so what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and just use a function inside of this is called round. Okay, and not the one I want. Let's try that again. I want round. Okay, I want the top one, the round right here, just that one. Okay, got to pay attention to what I'm doing sometimes here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set the wave difficulty. Once we do this little math equation, we're going to pull out from wave difficulty here. We want to set it. We're going to input in from increase wave, and then we're going to take our return value, and we're going to put that into wave difficulty there. And we want to set our alien spawn remaining, which is another variable that we need to create down here. So we're going to come down here, we're going to plus this, and actually spiders or enemy. Why don't we just call this enemy spawns remaining. Because what we're going to do, and we haven't got to it yet, is we're going to take this, and this is an integer, so we're going to change that float to an integer. We're going to pull this out of here. What's happening here is we're going to take this math formula and we're going to set it up so that our spawn for our enemy, and we're going to connect those up like that, is going to increase every time we start a new wave. So what we need to do is, if we're going to do that, and we're going to do this check about how many more aliens we need to put into the scene, we need to be able to plus up the number of enemy spawns remaining that we have, okay? So what we're going to start with right here is our wave difficulty starts at 5, right? And then we're multiplying it times 1.5. So that's basically going to give us the number 7. And well, 7.5, sorry, when we multiply those together. So with 7.5, we're going to round that up to 8. So our very first spawn of our enemies should be a total of 8 spawns. Okay? And then the next time we do that, we're going to take that 8 and we're going to multiply it times 1.5. And that should get us 12 enemies that will spawn in our second wave, and so on and so forth. So that is what this math formula is doing for us. Okay? All right, so now we've got that done. So let us go ahead and jump back to, I'm going to go back to start new wave. And start new wave is where we need to pull out this increase wave difficulty. We're going to put that right there. And let me just make sure that that is not, it is not. Okay, we're good. So there we go. We're going to go ahead and pull out, and we're going to connect that into our increase. All right. And now what we want to do is we're also going to set this up so that as we start the new wave, we need to set a timer by a function name. So it's going to kind of time this function for us. So we're going to right click here, set timer, set timer by function name. There we go. Feed into this, and we need a variable. So what this is going to do for us is the process for the spawning, we're going to give it a certain amount of time, okay? But we need a variable for it. We don't have that variable, so we're going to go ahead and add this variable, and this is going to be spawn frequency, okay? So spawn frequency is not an integer, it is a float. Pull that out, we're going to get that, connect that up. What we need to do is we need to compile this, and we're going to put a time in here, and this time is going to be let's go ahead and go with a 0.8 on this, okay? So we're going to put that in there, and this is going to be looping, so it's going to loop around for us. So make sure you include the little check mark there for looping. Okay. So now we've got this done, and one other thing I forgot to tell you to do is right here where our function name is. It is not done yet. This is spawn wave, which is the name of the function that we're spawning here. So we're going to hit enter, save that, compile everything, save it, and that should be it. Let me just double check to make sure I don't have any numbers down in here. We do not. We're good. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and go back up to the event graph. And for the event graph, we're going to go ahead and pull out this function that we just created called start new wave. Connect that up, and there we go. We have our first one set up. So now what we're going to do is we need to spawn that wave, right? So we're going to go ahead and right click here, and we're going to actually type in custom, add custom event. Okay, we want a custom event, and this custom event is going to be called spawn wave, right? And what we need to do is we're going to add this. This is the point where we're going to get into actually spawning our alien, but we don't have that function put together yet. So let's go ahead and add another function, and this one's going to be called spawn. I don't know why I keep calling alien. This is our enemy. We spawn our enemy. Okay, so we're going to spawn our enemy with this, and inside of this function, we're going to have to create yet another function for this very first part, and that is we're going to have to create a spawn point. So this is where we need to jump back into our, I'm going to pull this off of here, jump back into our scene real quick, and we're going to go ahead and select our spider. I'm going to delete that spider right now. I'm not going to use that anymore. And what I do want to do though is I'm going to put a point out here that makes it easy for me to be able to see that this is working. I'm going to probably set it over to the side so my character has a little bit of time to react. And we actually have something that is already kind of set up for us that makes this nice and easy. If we go here, up here at the top, wherever you have your place actors, you know, we're the one where we find our actors and put them here in the scene. Go ahead and type in target. And what we want is we want this target point right here. Okay? And we're going to pull this into the scene. And the thing about target points is you got to make sure that you have room for your character or your enemy character to spawn. So when you put it in, make sure it's not buried in the ground. Make sure that it's not buried in an object around it. Make sure that the area that it's spawning in is big enough for your character to actually spawn inside of that area. So things like that could cause some issues with your enemy character spawning. So when you're putting these in, and this is the first one we're going to put in, we're actually going to use this multiple times, but we're just going to set the initial one up first. So now that we have that set up, let's go ahead and go back to our game mode, and we're going to go ahead and create that first random spawn point that we want to get, okay? So inside this, we're going to create another function, and we're going to name this get random spawn point. Make sure I'm typing okay. Get random spawn point. And inside get random spawn point, what we want to first do is right click in here, and we want to get all actors of class. Get all actors of class right here. All right. I'm going to go ahead and connect these up, put the input here. And then the class we want is that target point. So everything that has the name target point. Okay, and we type that in, it looks for it, it says, oh, there you go, you have a target point in your scene. And if we jump back, I'll just show you this real quick. With the target point selected here in my scene, over here is called a target point. Of course, we can change the name of it if we want, but it's going to be looking for the target point. If I hover over that, you see right there at the top, it says class target point. Okay, so that means all of these that we pull out, even though they're going to be named target point 1, target point 2, and here on out, they'll still be found because of the class target point. Okay, so with that, what we're going to do now is we need to actually have it go out and try to find, so we don't want to say just find these 4 or 5 or specify specifically. We want you to be able to add in multiple types of multiple locations for targets for spawning. So what we're going to do is we're going to use an array, okay? And that's what this is right here. This is an array. If I hover over it, you can see out actors, array of target point. So I'm just going to click in that spot, just like we always do, drag out from it, and I'm going to type in last, and what we're going to get is last index, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to set it so that there's a minimum number, so it can get as minimum as we want, or it can get as many, or it can get all the way to the number that we actually have. So if you put 4 in your scene, that's 4 for your array. That's what it's going to find. That's going to be your max number. If you put 3, if you decide, you know what, 4 is not enough, I'm going to add 3 or 4 more, and you got 7. So now it's going to look for that, and it's going to put that down as 7 for your max number. So to do that, what we want is, I'm just going to right click out here. We're going to type in random. And I probably should have just pulled out from there because it would have found it a lot easier. But we want random integer, integer in range, right here. Random integer in range. There we go. Like I said, we're going to leave the minimum at 0. Put the max at whatever this last index number is. Then we're going to pull out from here, because we also, not only do we want to count them, but we also need to get them. So I'm going to pull out from there, we're going to type in get, and we want a copy, right here, get a copy. So once it counts them and knows how many there are, so this is the number that it's going to get. It's going to say, okay, we need to get this many. And then we also need a return node. So if I pull out from here, or I can just right click, but either way, type in return. There it is, add a return node. And I'm just going to drag this out from here, click that into there, and then we're going to rename it. See how I already figured it out? It's a target point for us, so it's got that set up for us. But we're going to rename this output spawn point, so we know what it is. All right, so now we've got our spawn point. We have this simple little function set up to be able to go out and find all of those for us. We're going to compile it, we're going to save it, and we're going to go back up to spawn enemy, and inside of spawn enemy, we're now going to go ahead and get random spawn point, pull that out, connect that there. And what we want to do is make sure that it is valid before we actually try to commit it. If it's not valid, it'll cause some problems. So we're going to pull out from here. We want is valid. Okay, is valid. And then what is valid? It needs to be the spawn point is valid. Okay, and then we're going to pull out from here as well. And we're going to get actor transform, because not only do we want to check that it's valid, we're going to spawn it, but we need to know where we're going to spawn to, and that's where we're going to spawn the spider. So we're going to go ahead and right click here and type in spawn actor from class. Okay, and then the class right here, we're going to hit that down arrow, and we're going to find our enemy, which is in my case my BP red spider. Plug this in. If it is valid, it's going to spawn it. And where's it going to spawn it? It's going to spawn it here at these random locations that we found. Okay, and that is the beginning of it, but we still need to do a little bit more to finish this function out, because we want it to go through and we want it to count. We want to count how many of these that we're adding in. Okay, so what we need to do is go ahead and check to make sure this is valid. Okay, and return is that's what's valid. And now we also need to create sort of a way that we're going to add this in, and we need to know what it is that we're going to add in. So from here we're going to pull out, and we want shift plus, and this is an increment of integer. Okay, that is the wrong one. Actually, let's go ahead and create our array first, because that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to add an array into this. But we're going to go ahead and come down here to our variables. Let's add that in. We're going to go ahead and type in, and this is going to be, we're going to call this spider. Okay, spiders. Like I said, this is going to be, we're going to click here, and we want this to be an array, and we want it to actually be of an object type, right? So if we come down here to object type, and we can also type it up in here, we're going to look for our BP, and we want our BP character. Mine's my BP red spider, and when I type that in there, you can see that now it turns it into an array of an object type. So now that we have that, I'm going to pull this out, and we want to get that, okay? And now I should be able to Ah, that's why it's a function add. I believe. There we go. Okay. So you saw what I did. It's actually click out, pull out, and you're going to type in add. And we want the function add right there. Okay. That's what should come out. So we only want one of these. Now the thing we need to do is we're going to pop this up a little bit up here. We're going to check, pop that into there. My spider out of the way a little bit. We also want to take this return value right here. I'm going to plug that in. I'm going to double click on this line somewhere that I can see it. And grab this, move it down here, and then do another one. There we go. Kind of clean that up a little bit. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're counting how many spiders, what are we spawning, and how many are we spawning, and where are we spawning them. Okay, so we know we have a limit, and we need to set that limit so that we stop spawning spiders once we get to that limit for this wave. And that's what we're going to do next inside of this. We're going to actually subtract this. So I'm going to pull out from here, and I want the minus button. So I want a negative integer, and actually it should be minus minus. Decrement, there we go. That's the one we want. So we want to decrement an integer. So 2 minuses in there. If you hit 2 minuses, that'll come up. And so basically we want to take our number of enemy spawns remaining. We want to get those. Remember, we counted those up in the previous function that we created. And we want to see how many more we have, and we want to subtract what we're adding into this. And then what we want to do is we want to do a check, okay? So I'm going to click down to here. I'm going to pull out. We want to do a comparison. So this is an equals, okay? And oops, not an increment, equal sign, okay? So this is a function equal integer, okay? So 2 equal signs. Make sure you hit 2 equal signs in there. And we're pulling that into here. And if it equals 0, then we're going to make this a boolean. And in order to use that, we're going to pull out from here. And we could have also hit just held down the left mouse button and a B. We want a branch. If you guessed branch, good job. So we're going to go ahead and put a branch in here, connect this up. So if it is going to keep going back and it's going to keep doing this until we reach the condition where it's equal to 0. And if it's equal to 0, it's true, then we're going to stop this function. So basically we're going to clear timer by function name. And that function name is spawn wave. Okay. So let's just make sure that we got everything we need in here. Didn't forget anything, we're good. Alright, so let's go ahead and compile it and save it. Alright, so all of that to spawn an enemy. Back here in our event graph. So we're going to spawn our enemy. Now that we've got that put together, we spawn that enemy. So we're spawning our wave. Alright, so the last thing we need to do for this is we need to end the wave. So we have the event begin play, we start a new wave, and then we start to spawn enemies, and then once that's finished, we need to end the wave. Okay, so again, there's no actual event for this, so what we're going to do is we're going to create yet another custom event. Okay. Add custom event, and this one is going to be end wave. End wave. There we go. We're going to also put a little delay into this one. And we're going to make it also about 2 seconds. And then we're going to take new wave. we start a new wave. We're going to pull that out here. And connect that up. Okay. Okay, so what we need to finish up though is right now we've got our end wave, and it doesn't know exactly why the end wave is happening. We're going to keep spawning enemies, but we need to tell it when the wave is over so that it knows to go here and start our new wave yet again. Okay, because at the very beginning, when we first begin, it's going to do this first one, and then it would stop. Once we killed all the enemies, it wouldn't know what to do. So we actually have to tell it to go to end wave, and if it is the end wave condition, it's going to delay and it'll start the next wave. So what we need to do first is we need to go ahead and create another function called register alien or register enemy death. Okay, and so let's go ahead and go here, go to our function, and this one is called register enemy death. Okay, and then with register enemy death, what we want to do is we want to pull out our spiders. We're going to get our spiders. Pull out from here, and we want to remove should be remove okay, sorry about that. Remove item. Nope, I hit the wrong one again. What's wrong with me? There we go. Wow, awfully hard to hit that button. I don't know why I'm having that kind of trouble. All right, and then with our register enemy death, okay, a register enemy death, we need to have an input for it. And in this case, what we're going to do is right over here on the right hand side, we're going to hit a plus button right here, and we're going to create a new parameter for this, and this is going to be called enemy, or actually we're going to call it spiders just like we did before. Okay, and we're going to look for that object again, so it's going to be an object type. So this is going to be BP, and then my red spider, or whatever your alien is, and we're going to leave it at that. There we go. Okay, and so now we have this little output button that pops up over here. We're going to connect this. We're going to connect spiders down here. So we're going to remove however many spiders we have in our array. After we count down, we're going to go ahead and pull out from here, and we need another branch. And we need to create a condition. And this is going to be yet another function. And this is where we're going to see if our wave is complete. Okay? And so this function is going to be called is wave complete. Okay. And is wave complete is basically going to do the math for seeing how many aliens or how many enemy we actually have still inside of the game. And so what we need to do is first we need to pull out our spiders. We're going to get our spiders, see how many we have, because remember we've been setting it. And then we're going to count how many we had. So this is going to be a length for an array. And I'm going to pull out from here and type in double equals. Excuse me. Okay. Now we also need to get to see how many spawns we have remaining. We're going to get that. And this is also going to be a double equals. So we want the equal integer. And we're going to leave them set to 0. Once they're equal to 0, and both of these conditions have to be true. Okay, once the number of spiders we have is equal to the number of spawns remaining, and they're both set to 0, so we need an AND statement over here. We can just pull out from here, type in AND, get the AND boolean, both of those into there, and now we need to return this information. We want a return node, and we're just going to pop that up in there. We're not going to name it anything, we'll just leave it as return value. It's going to be a boolean. Compile this and save it. And now we're going to go back to register enemy death. Register our enemy death, and we can pull this. Oh, you know what? I realized that we need to go back into is wave complete, because this actually is going to be a pure and constant. So we need to make sure this is pure and constant, because this is not going to be changed. Go ahead and compile that and save it. So when we pull it out for register enemy, it actually needs to be this type of function. Okay. We're going to pull this out. We're going to plug it into there. Okay. And now we've already created it, so it should be here. So if we type in end wave, we're going to call that function. And if you notice, our target is our BP game mode. So now it's going to tell it that this condition exists, it is true, we need to end the wave. Compile it and save it. Here with the enemy spawns remaining variable, we need to actually put a number in here. 0. I left it 0, apologize for that, missed that, that's my fault. And then the other thing we need to do is we need to open back up our spider blueprint. So if you forgot where it is it's under your content blueprints for your enemy spider, your enemy blueprints. And right here at the end, it doesn't know it's dead yet. So we got to actually tell it when it goes through this whole process that we've killed the enemy. So we actually need to call that function and tell it that we've killed it. And so that means we need to register the alien's death. So we've already written that that part of the blueprint, that function in the game mode blueprint. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click here and we're going to type in register and register. So it should come up as register. All right, let's try this. Oh, that's why. Let's pull off from a game mode, because right now it doesn't know what we're trying to register. And because we've actually cast it to our game mode there, that's the reason why we put that in there. So we're going to register our enemy death. And this is what this was supposed to do, was for casting to that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take this, and this is our target, so we're going to connect that. And for the spider, we need to reference the spider itself. So we're going to pull out from the spider, and we're going to type in self, and we're going to get a reference to self. Okay, so now we'll compile that and save it. And we'll also go ahead and save this. And now if we hit play, since they're confined in that little tiny area for us, we come over here, we can see that over in our world outliner, you can see that it's beginning to populate. I've got 6 of them in there right now. And as I start to kill them, we get the additional spiders popping in until we get a total of 8. And then I start taking them out. And then once they're gone, the next wave will start, and the next set of spiders start to come in. And they start to go out from there. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to fix the non-movement. And I'm not sure if yours are doing that or if this is something unique to mine. So I'm going to go ahead and, just in case yours is, go through the process of how to fix it. So the problem is that when, let's recap it again, we just saw it, but I'm going to show it again. So when we spawn, they're just kind of popping in, and I've created 2 spawn points just so I can kind of count how many were popping in with the 8 there. What the problem is pretty simple. Way back when we set up our blueprint for our red spider, right here under the blueprint red spider itself, what we need to do is we scroll down a little ways, and there is this section right here about the pawn and auto possess. So when we placed it in the world, so in other words we picked it up and we put it in the world, it works, right? But it doesn't work when it's spawned, and that's because right here we have to select placed in world or spawn. And thought I covered that earlier, so there we go. That is our issue. So now if I hit play, I will now have spiders come chasing at me from 2 spots. And then after they're dead, count 2 seconds. The next set will start to attack me. And they'll just keep coming at me. Okay, enough of that. So that's where we got this all set up. So now, again, we can just go ahead and start moving target points all over the place. However many you want to put into your scene. Right here I have 2. And the easiest way to do that is, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and select these 2 since I have them both here. I'm going to create a folder inside of my world outliner, and I'm going to call these spawn points. Okay, and now I'm going to select one of these, doesn't matter which one. And I'm going to hold the Alt button, and I can just pull off from it and duplicate it, and it's going to come right into my folder there. So I've got 3 spawn points. I wouldn't recommend them putting them right on top of you because you're going to want to have some room to play, and that's what we did is we set this whole area up. So I think you can decide how you want to do it and where you want to put them, but as you can see now I've created 3 right here in front of me. I'm going to have 3 different spawn points. They're just going to start popping up in different locations right in front of me. And because they're random, they should be coming out of them at random points. Now the way I recommend doing it is putting them somewhere outside of the area where your player can see them. So they'll spawn kind of out of sight and maybe down some paths or something like that where they'll move towards your character. And that's why, you know, again, you can set up your area as big as you want it or as small as you want it, and then put your area by nav mesh. You can set your nav mesh up as big as you want it or as small as you want it, so that the spiders have a larger area to move, and they can move inward towards where your character is, and you have a smaller character play area, so the spiders are actually coming in from outside, attacking them inside their little play area, inside the playground, so to speak, so that you can kind of set up a scenario. What I'll do is I'll set mine up so that they're coming down these different wadis here in the river, in these dry riverbeds, so that they're coming after my player, and they'll be set up outside of where my player can see them, so they'll spawn and then move inward as if they're coming from outside of this area. Anyway, so that's it for this video. We've got our enemies now able to spawn. We've got a play area for our character to run around in. We've got a way to confine our player inside that play area. So now all we need to do is start working on making it a little bit prettier, kind of moving some things around. But the biggest thing is getting our HUD put together so that we can actually see what's happening. We can see what our player health is, we can see what wave it is, and we can count the number of enemy that we've actually killed up to that point before we die. So anyway, thanks for watching. Again, check out my YouTube channel if you want to kind of backtrack and see a little bit more about this project, and like this video if you liked it. Talk to you next time.